Big news in AEW world. I know, it's trending everywhere. Everybody's talked about it. Star has been removed from the roster. Okay, the official website has been updated with one particular name removed. Everybody knows already. They're still talking about it right now. Sonny Kiss is no longer an official member of the AEW roster. I know it's big sad for everybody that's out there. Obviously, we all know that I'm Josh in here to begin with, where everybody's talking about the fact that CM Punk, 2 years into his contract, has been yeeted out of another company. I didn't actually think that it was going to happen, but it is definitely 100% the right thing to do. And on those same places where all of this news is trending right now, WWE's got a pay-per-view or whatever the hell they call it right now. Imagine that. And it's like, this is what's dominating everything. It's so funny. It's so funny. Last week, when all of this stuff ultimately went down, the event that ultimately ended, CM Punk's career, was the biggest professional wrestling event, at least attendance-wise, in professional wrestling history. Like, the most paid audience members, one of the single largest non-inflated number. It's like, Hulk Hogan, brother, 93,000 people at the Silver Dome, brother. And it's like, no, it was closer to like 78,000, but whatever, man. Don't worry about it. Or what was it? WrestleMania 32, the first time that they went down to Dallas. Oh, over 100,000. It's like, come on, it was closer to actually like 80, but whatever, man. But no, legitimate people that turned out at the event. Fantastic, huge European debut. They absolutely knocked it out of the park. All reports was it was an incredibly solid show. I didn't watch it or anything like that. I've seen a bunch of the coverage on it, and of course, obviously, I talked about this when it went down at the time when CM Punk once again got into a backstage fight. And like I said, I didn't actually think that this would end up leading to him being terminated, but I don't know, maybe he was on probation or something like that, and it just kind of turned out maybe because the boss was right back there and he was involved in one of Phil's multiple spur gouts, and that was finally just simply the straw that broke the camel's back. So AEW officially terminates CM Punk's contract with Cause. And because they're running a show tonight, and it's finally over, I was just waiting to see. It's like, maybe this is all just a big work, but no. It's all done. It's all dusted. AEW's moving on. Ultimately, they don't really need Punk, man, but we'll get through the weeds here, and then I'll give some prognostications. The company has effectively terminated terminated, not effectively. No, its relationship with Punk effective immediately. AEW has terminated CM Punk's contract following the week-long investigation over an altercation with Jack Perry last weekend at All In. The company released a statement, yes, and I got the official one that's right here. Might as well just pull it up from the announcement itself. All Elite Wrestling has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements between Phillip Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause, effective immediately. The termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan, general manager and head of AEW Creative. The termination follows a week-long internal investigation of an incident occurring backstage at AEW All In London on Sunday, August 27th. Imagine that. You have that landmark event, and CM Punk is such a fucking bitch that he has to try to make it all about himself. I talked about this in the previous video, so if you want more on that, well, go check out that video. It'll lay out this entire event. This is just simply going to be the aftermath. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee met and later convened with outside legal counsel before making a unanimous recommendation to Khan that CM Punk be terminated with cause. Khan offered the following statement: Phil played an important role within AEW, and I thank him for his contributions. The termination of his AEW contract with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish it didn't have to I didn't have to share this news, which may come as a disappointment to some of our many fans. Nevertheless, I am making the decision in the best interest of many amazing people who work at AEW or make AEW possible every week. Our talent, staff, venue operators, and many others whose efforts are unsung but essential to bringing our fans great shows on television and at arenas and stadiums throughout the world. And yeah, also, with the backdrop of this comes out earlier today. They're running a show and another pay-per-view bookending probably the most, at least financial-wise, the most successful week in company history. And oh yeah, the latter half of that week is taking place in Chicago, okay? CM Punk's backyard. So you knew this was absolutely terrible. This must have been just beyond reproach for Tony Khan to have to drop this right now. Like, okay, CM Punk running with this whole gimmick, this unfinished storyline of him being the real world's champion, and it's ultimately going to stay that way. It could have been continued at the pay-per-view tomorrow. It could have been continued, set up and continued. He could have dropped the belt, and then he could have just gone and fired him after the fact. But obviously, knowing CM Punk, he probably would have threw a hissy fit at the show, so he just decided, fuck it, I'll bite the bullet right now, fire him, and then I'll just end up taking the adulation from the fans, which, after the show was over, yeah, Tony was getting booed by the crowd. Don't really need to hear what he's saying, but you guys can probably listen to this, and, well, this is the tone and tenor, because this is taking place at the United Center, where Punk fucking came back, man, 2 years ago, and there he is, getting fucking kicked out. So, yeah, I understand how upset the crowd is, but then at the same time, man, he's like that hot chick, that fucking 9 that you are just sick and tired of looking at. It's like, you opt for absolutely nothing. You cause way more problems to my life. You don't benefit me at all whatsoever. Yeah, I'm not going to take away the fact that CM Punk is a tremendous professional wrestler and one of the best on the microphone that the industry has ever fucking seen. But the dude just gets into fights. He's just a fucking headache. He's that attractive bitch. You find a hot bitch, and I will find you a dude who is tired of fucking her. We eventually got to this point with CM Punk. Here's just a little snippet of what the crowd that stuck around after the show was over, had to say for Tony Khan after he comes out and tries to give a hard sell for the pay-per-view tomorrow. Yeah. It's a great welcome home for me. But he also gave a statement right at the beginning of the show saying that, you know what, hey man, everything was right, totally and completely off of the rails. And the fact that he opened up the show with this, I was still kind of thinking it was a work, because I don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes. Obviously, because this is a legal matter and everything is, well, maybe it ends up in courts. Who knows? CM Punk's kind of like that. But all we're going to have to go on this is just a bunch of rumors and conjecture. I don't want to get tied down in anything that cannot be corroborated. Basically, what we know, confirmed by a bunch of different people, pushing and shoving backstage. Tony Khan was there, involved Jack Perry, involved Samoa Joe, and involved Miro. Outside of that, man, we don't know what ultimately ended up happening. It looks like CM Punk instigated everything. Who knows what happens after that? The only people that did are the ones involved in making this decision. Tony Khan addresses CM Punk firing on AEW Collision. That opened up the show. Tony Khan opened AEW Collision on Saturday and addressed the termination of CM Punk's contract. Khan opened up the show saying that he made one of the toughest decisions in my personal career by terminating Punk for cause following an altercation with Jack Perry that took place at All In last Sunday. The incident was regrettable and it endangered people backstage. That might have been because he was right there, and the way that he describes this throughout the rest of the video. This is obviously a transcription of the video. If you want to find it specifically, you can find it on social media, but because it ran on AEW basically, I don't want to run afoul of, copyright and just have this taken down for no good reason. I just want to give you guys the goods here. So if you want to see Tony Khan's squeaky voice and his mop hair, go find the fucking video. That includes the production staff who put the show on every week, innocent people who had nothing to do with it. So CM Punk was also accosting them. I've been going to wrestling shows for nearly 30 years. I've been producing them on this network for 4 years. Never in all that time have I ever felt, until last Sunday, that my security, my safety, my life was in danger at a wrestling show. Are you being a little hyperbolic? It's like, I don't know, okay, maybe. I don't feel anyone should feel that way at work. I don't think the people that I work with should feel that way, and I have to make a very difficult choice today. Khan said that the termination came as a unanimous recommendation of AEW's Discipline Committee and the outside General Counsel. He apologized to any fans upset by Punk's firing before transitioning to footage from All In. Yeah, exactly, because he's still got a show to sell. Oh yeah, in Punk's backyard, so it's gonna be a little bit tough for him to do. Prior to the start of the Collision, Khan appeared in front of the crowd and talked about growing up in Illinois before making the same points regarding Punk's firing. Chicago crowd gave Khan a mixed reaction. Oh, this video I guess was taken beforehand. I thought it happened afterward. That's when it was posted, and at least when I seen it. But all throughout the show, at least from the reports that I was reading as well, it's like the CM Punk chants that were started or tried to be started by a couple of people, they were all just kind of quickly drowned out. So it's like, oh. And then judging by the response, at least on the places that I'm looking at, and it's like the AEW's official announcement, some other, high regarded, well, I don't really regard any wrestling journalists in high regard. So, in some of the more reputable places, everybody's like, yeah, no, I totally understand. Maybe I'm a little bit pissed off that you're not going to get all of these different storylines paid off. And this is the second time that MJF is just stuck, not getting to finish a story that he, had started with him. Cody Rhodes a couple of years ago. Well, that story's never going to get a, finish, at least in the foreseeable future. And then now with the CM Punk one, where obviously they were trying to get to something over the top to unify, or at least figure out what the fuck to do with the World Championship, but don't have to worry about that now. There's something that's actually far better at the top of the card that's going on right now between him and Adam Cole, but that's just mere semantics. Okay, another popular sentiment that is also going on social media right now: why would Tony Khan get rid of his biggest star? Why couldn't he just put all of those other vanilla midgets in place? Because Punk sells more merchandise than everybody else. Well, that's fantastic. Merchandise sales is, it's intrinsic and it's very important to the overall health and well-being of a company. 1000%. But what about people actually watching the show? The fucking show that was created in order to put CM Punk over, that a majority of the roster didn't have to deal with his fucking childish antics, because, okay, he's immensely talented. I will not take that away from him. The guy can fucking tell a story, he can cut a promo, but he can't apparently bring people to watch his fucking show. Here's Collision, okay? Collision debuted, Saturday show, 816,000 viewers. Not great. On primetime, on TNT, I'll be completely honest, I was expecting over 1 million viewers, but no, it didn't get there. And then the week after, fell completely off. It's not until there's a hard sell into a big event do you even get close to anything that you did with your premiere episode, which, yeah, okay, it was the beginning of a new show. It was also the return of CM Punk after he had to get his tricep repaired, and then also was serving a suspension for all the shit that happened this time last year. But to say, oh, he's the biggest draw, what, just because, I'm sure that those are probably just a bunch of fucking Fed nut huggers. Yeah, just because he was a big draw in the Fed last decade, it didn't really end up translating. Like, okay, I'll be fair on this one. Biggest pay-per-view by sales, well, most of them have something to do with CM Punk, okay? But it's mostly historic firsts. AEW's most purchased pay-per-view of all time is 2021's All Out. Yes, the very first, and I watched that one. It was a very, very good show, I'll be completely honest. It also had, the hype, Bryan Danielson potentially debuting, which he ultimately did, and then the surprise return of, or rather debut of, Adam Cole. So yeah, there was a bunch of hype, and then yes, of course, CM Punk returning after a 7-year hiatus. March 22nd's Revolution brought in 175,000 buys when, yeah, the MJF and CM Punk feud was hitting a crescendo when, who's on top? That was Paige and Cole. I think that was the last show that I watched, the last pay-per-view show that I watched. Oh, no, right. Forbidden Door was after that. And May 2022's A Double or Nothing did 165,000. Was that when he got the strap? I think that's when he got the championship. So, yeah, his first championship. But after that, well, All Out, his first defense when he comes back and he starts spurging out. Where's that one? Wouldn't you think that would be popular? But no, that was when all the sentiment started to turn. It probably started to turn right before Double or Nothing, but especially right after, when he started beefing in real life with Adam Page because he just can't fucking get along with everybody. He's better off elsewhere, man. And also, like I said about AEW Collision, man, the show was created because, okay, Tony Khan is still realized that there's value in Punk. He can eventually, get over himself. Maybe there'd be an opportunity there for him to create another star or something like that. We got so many big stars that are on under contract there. Yeah, no, you have another kind of soft brand split or something like that, where, yeah, you could have individuals go over there and thrive in prime time. Great idea, because Dynamite, consistently packed. You have kind of a, I don't know, televised dark show with fucking Rampage. And then you got Collision. Oh, okay, wonderful, fantastic. All of these guys have the opportunity to thrive, and they all have their own certain amount of star power, and then, yeah, you put one guy right on top. Fantastic. But no, like we seen with the ratings, it just never fucking manifest, and Punk was basically on every one of those fucking shows. So what does that tell you? He's not the draw that he thinks he is. The way that he throws around his weight backstage, or at least used to, didn't resonate with reality. He was too much of a fucking headache. After the news that CM Punk had been fired by All Elite Wrestling, an update had emerged on the future of AEW Collision. Punk wasn't the only on-screen attraction for Collision, but he also had a major influence on the show in the backstage capacity as well, which is where you started to hear all of those other rumors again, where the impetus, or rather the origin point to the backstage feud with Jack Perry started. There was also other little scuttle, can't corroborate that people didn't want to work Collision because Punk, well, he was just kind of being a dickhead behind stage. One of the important things that came up with the formation of Collision, be it because Punk or not, was something of a roster split. It meant that there were some talents you'd regularly see on Collision, and rarely, if ever, on Dynamite, and vice versa. Again, a decent idea because there were so many stars that were over there. Obviously, Miro, who I really like, and especially during his Redeemer gimmick, really fucking good, had been out for a while, waiting for creative to return, and then had the opportunity to come back on the Collision show and just, show off everything that he's good at over there in a specific area. Same with Andrade, again, somebody else who I like a lot, and have the opportunity over there. Malachi Black, all of those guys go over there, and hey, those are your big draws. Those are the guys that are on top. Create a little main event scene, then another little feeder class underwards, in order to make some homegrown stars, which there are some on AEW. Okay, it's not quite as top heavy as the Fed, where you got Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and a bunch of fucking scrubs. AEW doesn't quite have that star power, but they still have a very good main event scene. I like it a lot better. I think it's a lot better than the Fed, just because I'm kind of sick of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and the same thing. But anyways, can get bogged down in the weeds on this. Sound like the concept that may be coming to an end, with Andrew Zaharian of a Wrestling Observer writing that Warner Brothers Discovery, obviously the parent company of the networks that AEW is hosted on, TBS for Dynamite and TNT for Rampage and Collision. I think, Rampage is on there as well, but whatever, was informed late last week that the soft roster split will be ending. Oh, okay. We must see the first example of that, as PW Insider reported that the Young Bucks are backstage at Collision, which, at the end of the show, guess who came out at the end of the show? Yeah, some of the people that Punk legendarily was beefing with this time last year that ended up with the just about year-long injury hiatus and suspension. But okay, so we've addressed two of the three big things that are going on social media. Punk's firing, obviously, the overall reaction, and what's going on within the confines of AEW, its fans, and its roster. But then there's the other thing, okay? The big effluent in the room. He's going back to the Fed. Okay, because the Survivor Series, it's coming up in November. There's a big old show on the horizon right there, and it just so happens to be back in Chicago at the Rosemont Horizon. I think that's normally where the Fed runs. Do you think he's going to show up there? Well, guess what? A lot of top WWE stars that don't want CM Punk to return after being fired by AEW. Yeah, exactly, because they seen what went on over there. They're like, wow, AEW really looks like the place to be. And then Punk shows up and it's like, wow, that looks terrible. That looks just as bad as all the animosity that was around during the dead time in WWE, back when it was Cena on top and everybody else was just fighting for relevance. Yeah, I don't really think that ends up working out all that well. So if you just bring in somebody who's in his fucking 40s, for the 2 years that he's been back in the industry, over half of which was spent under suspension or in injury recovery, I really think that he has a place to come back. Like, he wouldn't come back and dethrone, the 3 or 4 year reign of Roman Reigns? He'd win that secondary belt and start bitching and whining and complaining about it? No, it would just be a legacy hiring for him to just come out and wave and sell some fucking pudding pops. With the news that CM Punk has been fired by AEW, obviously a big topic of conversation is a potential move to the Fed. As of right now, there's no word on whether Punk has a non-compete clause. No, it just sounds like, okay, goodbye, see ya, bye. Or any other clause that would prevent him from working elsewhere for a period of time. It hasn't stopped the talking, not just the fans. Punk firing is also discussed backstage at WWE Payback tonight. It doesn't sound like everybody would be positive about a Punk return to WWE, as Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp, piss on his name, stated there's always a chance, but there's a lot of people on the roster in WWE that don't want him there. In Fightful Select report, it is also reported that Punk still has a major heat with numerous top names in the Fed. Yeah, because Punk was very, very vociferous in his critique of Roman Reigns back when he first came back on the scene. Seth Rollins, and also beefing with him. I think everything's cool with Cena, even though he just kind of elevated to this Legends position, which is so fucking weird, and being the guy who just kind of pushed me out of caring about professional wrestling for a long time. Him being elevated to this, oh, he's the greatest of all time. No, he basically killed the fucking business, at least in my opinion. They tried to recast him as Hulk Hogan, and he killed off any interest. Most of the people that were coming off the back of attitude and a ruthless aggression era, and it's like, oh great, we're just gonna return back to this fucking hokey cartoon shit. Fantastic stuff. But anyways, Punk did show up backstage at an episode of Raw in Chicago a few months ago and spoke with numerous people, including Triple H, before Vince McMahon, who was working remotely, decided Punk had to leave. In a statement he read to Open Collision, yeah, Tony Khan thought that his life was in danger, and basically, saying that the health and the happiness of his overall locker room is a little bit more important than one sped deciding that he is bigger than the business. And guess what? When you start to think of that, well, you start playing for the name on the back of the jersey, and as a big self-professed hockey fan, as Punk is, you start playing for the name on the back, and you forget the one that's on the front. Well, guess what? You can just see yourself out. And yeah, as a lot of people are saying, AEW's basically gonna be fine. Punk was more of a headache. It was an experiment. It was definitely a risk worth taking. Unfortunately, it just ended up being the worst case scenario on multiple fronts. But you take a look at also what's going on at the same time. It's like, I just don't see this whole idea that the Fed is hotter than it's been. It's like there's a bunch of people that work there. I just don't think any of them are real big stars outside of the confines of professional wrestling. It's like people know who they are, but your average person doesn't know who they are. If they think that it's hot, fantastic, man. You're selling out arenas or making it look like it's sold out. Fantastic stuff. Good on you. Same with AEW. Just sold 81,000 tickets at a big stadium in London. Cool, man. And you did all of that in spite of your quote-unquote top star, as so many people wanted to lay him, opening up the show and maybe trying to hijack it and derail it, and then only got announced like a couple of days beforehand. Really doesn't much matter in the grand scheme of things, right? And the fact that one legend is out the door, and then there's also rumblings of Edge coming through and maybe doing a couple of things, which at very early stages, like this is some other rumors that were going around at the same time. When Tony Khan was trying to start up AEW, there were rumors that he was trying to get Edge and Jericho instead of Jericho and Punk at the same time. He really wanted to get him into the fold, and given Christian's still there, like they could do one final run, even though I don't really like Edge like that. But again, a very good professional wrestler can cut a hell of a promo and would definitely be a benefit to the company. And then also you got Will Ospreay. His contract's going to be up at the end of the year. That's going to be another big feather in the cap if Tony Khan, who's been showing him tremendous love over the past year. They'll definitely secure AEW's foothold in Europe and also put another top star on the roster because, oh my God, they got so many guys that they could just break through to the main event at a moment's notice. I already mentioned Miro, Andrade, Jay White, Kenny Omega's still the best in the world. If Kota Ibushi can find his footing. Like, we could just run down that list. It is a stacked fucking roster. And all they need is a chance. All they need is an opportunity to break through without somebody just waiting and gatekeeping them because they just feel aggrieved at a moment's notice. That's why, I swear to God, AEW's probably going to return to normal. They're probably going to be in a better place after this because that big black straight edge cloud is finally fucking gone. So yeah, man, just give them a little bit of time. I know I'm partial to. I totally understand my bias, but I think AEW was great all the way up till Adam Page got the strap, Punk comes in, starts messing everything up, and for the past 2 years, I've kind of been checked out. But now, if they're going to return to good professional wrestling, they can get good, solid storytelling because they don't have to worry about somebody either getting injured or causing a fight backstage and people walking on eggshells, maybe you can return back to something really fucking good. So sayonara, Punk. You will not be missed. Go back to just shouting your leftist propaganda on Twitter, or X now. Kind of like you're an ex-employee. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.